that we have this illustrious and creative and obviously very collaborative group of people, because as you work on your films, as we all know, no one does it alone. There's no way that we can get from an idea to something on screen without many, many, many loving, caring, guiding friends. So thank you all, and thank you all for your courage, your beautiful stories. Wow, this year, all the films just stood out in such a beautiful way. So we don't have a lot of time. We've got about 30 minutes, and I want to ask as many questions as I possibly can. If you feel as though you have something, a real burning question, I just want to ask that you find the filmmakers afterwards. I'm going to try to cover as much as I can within 30 minutes. But what I'm going to ask is that we start on the end. Please introduce yourself and the film that you worked on and your involvement with it.
My name is Fred Lena. I wrote and directed Margaret and Gary.
Wonderful.
My name is Heidi Hartwig. I co-directed Dysphoria.
Wonderful.
I'm David Roosevelt, and I wrote and directed Bob and Dale.
Hi, my name is Romina Schwedler, and I wrote, directed, produced The Visit.
Hi, my name is Alberto Ferreras, and I wrote, produced, and directed Lesson Number 2.
Hi, my name is Ruya Koman. I co-directed, produced, and acted in Interference.
Wonderful. And I really want to thank Melissa and Florence and the Foundation for just putting together such a beautiful, diverse group of voices and touching, really interesting films. It is such a joy to watch. So let's just jump right in. And one of the things that I am wondering about is being in something that you are working on. Can the filmmakers respond to that who are also being in the film? Because wow, it's like so many hats that you're wearing. Can you just give us an idea, if you did it again, what might you do differently, or what worked so beautifully for you? Do you want to start, Ruya?
So I don't recommend doing everything, especially if you don't have help. So in this particular film, we were three female producers. One of them was me, Robin Rose Singer, Rabia Sultana. And two directors, Robin Rose Singer and myself, and I was acting, but I was only able to do that because I had help from my wonderful co-producers and co-director.
Well, that's great.
Well, I had to do it again because we showed Lesson Number 2 twice.
What?
Yes. The first time, it was a different cast. I wasn't lucky enough. Well, the story is, I was playing the therapist, and this really good actor was playing the patient. Yeah. And because I put myself in the scene, I wasn't there to help her as an actor. I fucked up. So
interesting.
And it was so interesting. I mean, afterwards when I saw it, it made me rethink the casting, and I had recently had gone to see a play at La Mama, and there was this amazing actress called Suzanne Didona, who's sitting there, I hope. And
hey,
Suzanne, she was so good. I sent her the script. I'm like, you'd be so perfect for this, and she loved it. And then I asked her for an actor that she felt comfortable working with, and that's how David Fraioli, who is over there somewhere, came in as the therapist. So I did it again. And the secret was not to put myself in the scene. That was my takeaway, yeah.
Wow, so interesting.
Even though I am an amazing actor myself, if I may say so.
I love it. Fred, for you, do you mind that I call you Fred?
That's my name.
Okay. All right, wonderful. Wait, Fred, do you go by Frederick or Fred?
No, Fred.
Okay, Fred. How about, gee whiz, you don't even, there you are in the car, talking to a voice that there's nobody else there, literally, physically, to do the scene with you. Talk a little bit about your experience with that.
I just wanted to see if I could make a movie without spending any money at all. And half the time I was in the car alone, and you know, the other half the time I had a buddy with me, and you know, and I knew the scene well enough just to play it in my head. But I had, you know, half the time I had the camera back here, nobody in the car, the camera back here, a light up here, and had my head against the window over here, and I couldn't see anything on the right side of the car, and I'm thinking, this is a little dangerous. But I lived through it, and and I ended up not spending any money, except I couldn't find the right voice for the GPS, and it had to be right, so I ended up going through my voiceover agent, and he busted my balls. I had to pay this woman a lot of money, relatively speaking, so I didn't get away with nothing. You know, it was fun to do. I just, because on this one I didn't have to provide transportation and cater and wardrobe and produce the whole thing, and so that was cool. Because a lot of times, you know, for me, making a short film is kind of like, you know, climbing a mountain just to get to the top so you can piss into the wind. Really, you know, it's what it feels like very often. But it beats lying on the couch waiting for the phone to ring. So, but the one thing I would have done, I would have tightened up the end. I would have tightened up the end.
A little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know.
On the next one.
Okay, and that's going to lead, but just a second. Oh, because David, no, you were not in your film.
I played Dale, the older one. No.
You clean up good.
I
play cameo.
co-directed with our star in Dysphoria.
Yeah.
And that was something that, you know, this was sort of like a calling card for this actor. And sort of at the 11th hour, they just kind of freaked out of like, how am I going to direct this? How am I going to be in this? How,
right.
you know, what is the most important aspect for myself? And so they approached me and said, can you come on board? And it was so late in the process, but I said, you know, I really have to make it my own. And so, you know, please give me a few days with the script and let me tear it apart and build it back up so that I felt like it was really mine. And they were really awesome with that. And I think, yeah, I mean, it's such a team effort, and you just never have enough time. And so if that person was then gonna just also direct and star, and you know, it's just you just don't have time in a short. You know, we shot it over 2 days, and we missed a lot. Wow. So, you know, it was really beautiful to hold someone's hand through recognizing, like, hey, you know, this is so important for me to direct and wear all these hats, but at the end of the day, I need someone there to sort of guide me, and that the acting is what was important to this person. So it was great.
Romina, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Oh, no, I just said I played a cameo.
Oh, you did! You jumped in.
But my boyfriend, who is also the wonderful cinematographer of The Visit, Alan Carmona here, he actually, I wanted to play Anna, the wife, and until like maybe like a month before shooting, I was going to do that. And he sat me down and he said, are you sure you want to do this? This is, you know, this was my biggest film yet.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful to this day that he did that, because even when I did the cameo, I was such a stress, walking chaos. And I was so, like, I couldn't, not only could I not enjoy the process at that very moment, but also looking back, I'm like, if I was behind the camera, I would have seen this and this and that. So it's great, but in my experience, I don't know, I started directing because I wanted to put myself out there and generate my own work, but the bigger my projects got, the smaller my acting roles got. So that's one thing. It's great for promoting your work, but then you know, you have to find a balance and see what you want to do. And in short films, it becomes very difficult because you have a small team and a small amount of time and money. So yeah, a lot of work.
Thank you. David, I want to ask you, since we're talking about short films, when you were working on your wonderful film, Bob and Dale, when you first came up with the idea around it, were you thinking this is a short film format, or did you have a longer format in mind?
Yeah, we wrote it as a short. Yeah, so it pretty much was conceived of, the original script is very similar to what we shot. You know, the script got better, but the actual structure of the film was pretty much there.
Oh. And I have to just say, I just want to go to that cabin. It's so beautiful. You're New York based?
New York based, and both the actors are New York actors, so they both live in the West Village.
So how'd you secure that gorgeous location and that town? I mean, because that's another aspect, is like being able to tell your story in the location that will help inform it. And I mean, oh, it was so beautiful, and it just fit so perfectly, and it was just so different than, of course, than our New York experience. Could you talk a little bit about that?
We talked about even shooting upstate New York, and I just felt like it needed to be in the West, and it needed the bigness of it to tell the story. And so that town is a town I'd been to a fair bit over the years. I camped there when I was a kid. I grew up in the Midwest, and so I knew about it. And then when we were deciding to film there, one of the very cool things, it's the 400 people live there year round. It's a very small town. It's very remote. So it's kind of not the greatest place for filming, but the thing that it does have is a very well-respected repertory theater that does a 4-month season there. And so everybody in Colorado knows about this town. The actors know about this town, and they have a black box theater, which is, we built a set to film the shower, and so we were able to do that.
That was built? You built that?
We built that.
That was gorgeous.
And that way we could get the longer lenses and do things like that. But so we were able to do crazy stuff like that. We're building a set in a town of 400 people in January in the middle of Colorado, because this town had it, and we used their housing, their summer housing and stuff like that. So it was, it had some benefits getting out there in the middle of nowhere, but I don't think we could have done it in just any picturesque town. This town really helped us out.
That's great. Heidi, can I just ask you quickly about that beautiful, amazing mansion that you used? And I wanted to ask about the dining room. Was that in there? Did you dress that? Yeah. Or talk a little bit about finding that location.
The home was being sold. And so we just said, this is an incredible location, and we need to utilize this, and how can we use an empty home? And so that was, just the jump off point for it. And yeah, when you get production value out of a location, I mean, it's the precipice of like, we're going to write something great. We got to make it happen. This is so great. And so that was sort of how it all catapulted. Of this actor wanted to have a calling card. We had this outstanding location, and how are we going to put the two together and make something phenomenal in 2 days? So it was, those types of things are how things kind of catapult. You just sort of all hunker down together in one space.
So quick question, was the story there before the location?
No.
Okay. So the location informed...
That is correct.
Wow, interesting. Isn't this wonderful? How many different ways, like to be able to tackle something? I think this is so inspiring for your ideas of what you want to create, whether it's for yourself or to have the experience behind, more behind the lens, if that's what you want to do. That there's so many ways to go about it. And for you, Alberto, what was it like? Because you had just basically one set there. So how was that working in that space for you?
Well, that space is actually, it's been a very good investment, because we shot 5 shorts in there. It's my studio in the West Village. Wow. I'm like, we can work late. Actually, I swear to God, not in this one, but in 2 of the other shorts, we had to knock on the neighbor's door because they were having loud sex. I'm like, I'm sorry. We're shooting a movie. And downstairs and next door, and I'm not going to tell you which one, but they're in the thank yous. Because they did like...
It could be the subliminal message, because that's what she needed to do, right?
Exactly. It's like, can't you hear it?
Yeah, that was the character's message, yeah.
So,
that's amazing.
So all the shorts of the series, we work. It's a dogma. We have a method, and it is that we do have a reading to make sure that we're on the same boat. And we have one rehearsal, and we shoot in 4 hours, and that's it.
Oh,
so
wow.
that short, Alex Stikic over there, he's my DP, who is
wonderful.
A freaking angel.
Great job.
And that's how we make them, because I want to work with good actors, and I don't want to waste their time. And I don't want to drag projects for 3 months and 6 months and 2 years. I just want to take this and make it happen. I've been involved in bigger projects that take 5 years, and I'm like, we have to just put it out.
You're getting it done. Fred, for you?
I just want to ask what lens you were using for your opening shot.
Well, that was a very wide lens. Alex, what was that? It was a fisheye.
10 millimeter. So I want to ask again, because we're working in a short film, short films and short format tonight. As far as creating tension, because oh my goodness, in your film, I was on the edge of my seat. What did you do specifically? Because you crafted it so well in Interference that, I mean, it was just so incredibly intense. How did that look like from the page to what we saw tonight? Talk a little bit about that, because the tension is amazing and it feels more almost like a thriller, the feel of it.
Yeah, I mean, the script was written by Robin Rose Singer, and the script itself was wonderful. So when I first read it, I couldn't stop reading it. So I don't think it was that difficult to kind of put it on the screen the way it is. Obviously, we did use the thriller element, like when we first see Stephen Hill, who's playing Eric Wise. That's a moment where we decided to kind of suddenly see him at the window.
Oh, there he is.
And I always look at the screen, you know, during the screenings I watched, everyone kind of jumps at that moment. So I guess, but yeah, and then I think it starts more as a thriller and it moves into more a documentary style as we get to the end of the movie.
Well, that was really very powerful.
Thank you.
And as you know, I think also as things unfold, like Fred, you know, this Twilight Zone-esque feel of like as we get more and more information. How did you decide when you were going to put in that information? Because you lay it out so we don't know in the beginning at all, and then we get more and more. What was your
I have no
work on
idea.
that?
I wrote it in, you know, just sitting down for a couple of hours, and I started off to write a comedy, and something happened. I went off that way, and
Wow.
and you know that happened.
Okay.
I have a Halloween head.
Well, I absolutely love that idea. Can you talk about getting June Squibb? Because, wow, how'd that happen?
Sure.
Wasn't she amazing in that? I mean, yeah. I mean, it was just so well done. And how did you?
And she
how
was
did you get her?
amazing to work with as well.
Yeah.
So I was on my third or fourth draft of the script when I saw Nebraska. And after I saw it, I just couldn't get her out of my mind. She was just so perfect for this role. And I was like, what a dream that would be, you know? So I sent an email to her agent, and of course that didn't work. And I was like, oh, what other ways? But, you know, it just, I just didn't know anybody who would know her. So I was like, okay, I tried. And then about a month later, I found out that my debut micro short, which I did in order to put myself out there as an actress, I had no idea that was going to bring me into directing. I found out that I was nominated for an award at the Burbank International Film Festival, where out of all people, she was going to be presenting the award. Wow. So I guess I got a little lucky there, or serendipity, or destiny.
So great.
So yeah, once I found that, I was like, "There's no way I'm not walking up to her." I know you're not literally, like, you know, supposed to do that, but I had no other way. So
That's great. Well, she added a lot to the film.
yes,
Yeah.
she was amazing, and she really was like the heart of this whole thing, because that's then how I got Sean Marr. You know, the call saying June Squibb caught his eye, and his agent reached out, and he said he wanted to read the script. So it was really, and I was able to also get a lot of people to work for less or to donate services because she was involved, and then because he was involved. So it all
that's great.
Snowballed. Yeah.
Wow, love it. And David, can I ask you something, like from the idea, kind of like the surrealism that you had in terms of, you know, when the animal, was that the elk was you know, there and not there, and can you just talk a little bit about how you, when you look, you know, feeling through the script as to what is going to need more of an explanation and what's not, because it was really I mean, it was like sort of fascinating. Can you just talk a little bit about that element that you added?
Yeah, I mean, the one comment that immediately comes to mind is that we had to make a decision, and this sounds like a really simple decision, but we had to make a decision in the film: is the elk real or is it not? And once you make that decision, everything flows out of that. And there's a tendency as filmmakers to say, well, we want to leave it a mystery. But actually, for me, that there has to be a commitment, and then the mystery comes out of the telling. But the elk is real, unless it isn't. And so in our film, no, I mean it once we decided what the elk was, then it enabled us to put that into his headspace and what that meant to him, and to really root that. And I'm not sure whether that helped Mark when he was playing that, but the other aspect of that was I kind of wrote that intuitively, and then my boyfriend is actually a psychiatrist. And so I had him, after I did a couple of drafts of the script, I had him read the script. And I said, could you diagnose this guy? And he emailed me the next day and said, yes, this is a guy who has dementia with Lewy bodies, which is a dementia that involves hallucination of animals and things like that. And it's fairly common, and it's the most misdiagnosed dementia in the United States. So that kind of added this element of like, oh, we could explore this, and it also gives us a talking point there.
And just how did you do that? Like, what did you have? Because you had a live elk there. And then,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So how did you find? I mean, hello, elk, come on, please be in my movie. Or how did that work? You found someone who has an elk?
It was hard. Yeah. I mean, we really, during the shoot, we had a second unit that was going out all the time to find elk. And they...
Wow.
Yeah.
How often does that happen?
Yeah.
That's great.
But then we didn't find one. It was this year. There was not a lot of snow. Usually, where we were filming, there would have been snow everywhere, so the town would have been covered in snow. Everything was really dry. The elk patterns were all different, and so we had people from the town that were like guides that were could show us where elk hung out. So we finally actually found an elk in a wildlife refuge about 60 miles away, and we went and filmed him and then transposed him into the forest, and then the elk that's lying on the road is production design. It's a prop that was built. Yeah.
Wow, that is really interesting. And I also want to say I really was fascinated when you were in the drive to do the time lapse of going into town.
The jump, yeah.
That was really nice because it was like a steady flow as far as like you're watching and you're just seeing things, you get that feeling of distance. That was just it seemed like, just to have it fixed that way, that have that one viewpoint was just really interesting.
Yeah, once we started to see, it's actually a viewpoint you don't see very often. It's very pleasing. The reason why you don't is because more modern cars have different headrests and different things like that. And this is just an old Jeep Wagoneer that has the low bench seat. So you put a camera in the back, and it just feels natural because we've all been in that position as a person.
Yeah.
And so it's immediately, I felt, a very natural place. But the jump cuts into town are a wonderful example of, I thought that needed to be a really poetic thing in the film, and when I was writing the script, I had all of these crazy director ideas of what we were going to do lens-wise and all that getting into town, and none of them worked. And so that's kind of what we had, and then we enjoyed it and fell in love with it. So
that's great. And Fred, for you, I was wondering. Now, Don was your co-director, and he was also editing. So when you were working on the film, did he say, was he able to see things while you were filming in the car? They saying, no, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, because you said you were by yourself mostly.
Yeah, he suggested one angle.
Well, it definitely works.
I'll tell you the truth. He told me he wouldn't edit the thing unless I gave him co-directing credit, so that's what happened.
Oh, okay. And there we go. So there's so many ways to get something done. I really love this. Okay. I want to ask, too, just about this idea of getting your ideas. I mean, obviously, they came from many different sources. Is there anything that you'd like to add about just sort of encouragement for all of us, because it's a room full of actors and creative people, and we got to sit here tonight and watch this finished art form that you actually completed, and we got to enjoy it tonight. So is there anything about like sort of starting at the beginning that, I don't know, that you would just say for encouragement for people to be working on their own pieces? From your experience, who would like to start? Go ahead and jump in.
I mean, start with what you know. I mean,
okay.
Always. And what you have and your resources and who's there that wants to hold you up and help you to make it happen, because it can feel so impossible to make a film. So you start with what you know, and what you feel has to be told, and who can help you.
Great.
Once a person commits fully, Providence moves as well, and all sorts of unexpected people and help and things just sort of arrive out of the blue. It's, I believe in magic. Boldness has a magic
Genius,
to it.
power, and magic in it.
There you go. That's
Yeah,
the quote.
it's
Go
wonderful.
ahead.
Yeah, I love what Fred said too about sitting down to write a comedy and it turns into something else, and just letting something move beyond your expectations. And so I think that's a really great thing, and it always surprises you when it happens. But I'd also say, like, Bob and Dale was the first film I'd ever made that was, I just overtly kind of sat down to say, what do I want to put in the world right now? Because, I just find the world kind of troubling. And so I wanted to, I had a couple of note cards with ideas and stuff, and so I wanted to say, but like, which one of these is actually really what I want to put out, and is beyond just like a whim that I need to express right now, but is like, how do we respond to the world right now? And I think it's an important time to think that way.
Beautiful.
I would say find a team that you really like, a group of people, because like you said, it's a collaborative art form. It's definitely not something you can do on your own. And just growing together with those people, creating together with people that you actually like and whose art you also respect and you find appealing is very important.
Alberto?
I'd say be ready to work really, really, really hard. And also this might sound like a cliche, but to trust your vision. If you have an idea that you really believe in, take in everybody's advice, but don't dismiss your own voice. So.
Beautiful. Alberto?
There was, I wish I remember what the saying was, but it was something like, the only bad movies are the ones that never get made, or something like that. It was an ominous line by some Hollywood guy that I met somewhere. But it was like, he said that, and I think about it a lot, because I feel like what I'm trying to do with shorts is just, I have an idea, I feel very strongly about this, I need to say it. So my advice is to keep it simple. Because if it's a good idea and you have good actors and your script is good, I think it's going to be engaging and it's going to make people think. And we do need artists who want to say something, who want to help us understand emotionally a lot of things that are happening in the world that are just discussed at an intellectual level. And I think that that's what art does. Art helps you understand emotionally. And so we need to keep making movies, good movies, I hope.
Beautiful. Well, I really want to thank everyone here tonight and everyone who came here to support these short films. It's a fantastic program and one that I feel really gives voice to a lot of different viewpoints. And for that, I'm just so grateful. So let's please thank our panelists, and thank you for being here too.